Hello and welcome to another episode of Business on the Wire. In a shock move, Franklin Templeton decided to wind up six of its debt funds. The move sent a ripple across the mutual fund industry, both in terms of whether or not there was large risk building in the system and what kind of support could be given to individual investors in those funds. To talk about what's been happening within the mutual fund space, the consequences that may now arise for many in the industry as also for investors, and what exactly is going on within the debt space. Joining me now is Ajit Dayal. He's founder of Quantum Asset Management and a man who's been looking at the stock market universe and the mutual fund universe for close to 3 decades now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ajit, for joining in and talking about what the mutual fund industry is going through right now. I want to take a couple of steps back because I think for a lot of people, it's not even clear exactly what happened. I want to start with the what happened on the six funds for Franklin Templeton that they then decided to wind up and, what led to that decision.
So I'd like to actually step back even before that.
Further.
So if you look at what happened in 2008, so 2008 we had Lehman going bust in the US, and then we had the great financial crisis, and it spilled over to financial markets in India. And what happened at that point in time was that many of the debt mutual funds, again, of course, equity mutual funds got hit, and that's separate. But the debt mutual funds had made significant investments in corporate bond market in India and also the government bond market in India. And those markets froze. So so you had the sovereign bond market freezing and you had the corporate bond market freezing. And at that point in time, the mutual funds went to SEBI and they told us then SEBI chairman that we need your help, give us a rescue package. Basically, we should stop redemptions, try to stop money from flowing out. And the SEBI chairman very rightfully told them, he said, look, you guys made all the money on the way in. When you collected all this money for the mutual funds, handle it yourself. Now, we know that the mutual funds have, they're all part of banks, large insurance companies, large financial service companies. So they have a lot of connectivity up in the Ministry of Finance and in New Delhi and RBI. So they went over the head of SEBI, and they went to the ministry and they went to RBI and they got the rescue package. And that rescue package was basically a line of credit that which is what the 50,000 crore has recently been announced. So they got a line of credit and they said, okay, don't worry, we'll look after you. And they were looked after and they were rescued. Again, they had missold bond funds then and they were rescued. And that rescue from 2009 till now has resulted in most of these debt funds being anywhere between 3 to 10 times larger than they were in 2008-9. So there is a history to the rescue. When you hear the AMFI representatives or the other members of AMFI on national TV, when they talk about this as a black swan event, it's rubbish. In the last 26 years of the mutual fund industry in India, we've had 17 what they would call black swan events. They're more like black crows. They happen every other year. But just the risk control has failed. And the fact that they seek a government bailout, and they got bailed out once, and that's already there, whether internationally, where the Fed has bailed out the financial firms in the US, the Eurozone, the ECB has bailed out financial firms in Europe. So they're banking on the bailout. So they're banking on mis-selling, misrepresenting. If something goes wrong in a black crow event that seems to happen every year, they have someone to bail them out. So I think before we talk about the Franklin event, I think we have to recognize the characteristic of this industry. They are out there misrepresenting, talking about returns. They do not talk about the underlying risk. And of course, they get all the fees on the return side and when things are good. And then when things go bad, they're out there telling us, hey, Mr. Taxpayer, Mr. Government, Mr. RBI, please bail me out. So that's the important background that people must recognize and be aware of.
I want to drill this down also to what it means at an individual level, Ajit, because mutual funds have now for years been pitched as the go-to investment option for households. And that did happen in a big way. What was the appeal? Because, the returns were running almost side to side with what a fixed deposit would give you till around, 2016 or so. But the tax benefits were very high? And B, as an individual investor, is it easy to spot these kind of lemons when you're choosing to invest in a debt mutual fund or any mutual fund? Can you do that kind of due diligence and figure out, who's in too much of, swampy land versus who's very legit and very clean?
Yeah. So, again, stepping back a bit, I think mutual funds are a fantastic investment vehicle. So when Amphi says mutual funds sahi hai, they're right. It is a great vehicle, a great conceptual vehicle for an individual to participate on the equity side, on the debt side, in complex markets, and they may not have the time or the understanding for it. And of course, even with an equity, there's risk. You can go for the large cap and you go for the small cap, and there's different levels of risk. In a very similar way, when you're on a debt fund, then you have different levels of risk. And the level of risk is defined by the rating agencies, right? They rate something as AAA, AA, whatever it is. And you have the corporate bonds, of course, and then you've got the sovereign bond. So the sovereign bond is riskless. The last thing to go bankrupt in the country is going to be your government. And if the government goes bankrupt, then everything's anyway. It doesn't make a difference what you do beyond that. So if you think about it from an individual perspective, why should they be in a debt fund? For a bunch of reasons. And when I say, let's put it as fixed income fund, I could be in liquid, which is low return, or if I've got a 3, 4, 5 year time horizon, I may want to be in debt. And you compare that to the fixed deposit rate. So if the FD rates from your bank are getting lower year after year, from 9.5%, now they're down to 6.5%, again, that hunt for yield and the desire to beat inflation and to build a little nest egg, which is a very valid concern for an individual. So yes, it's okay to buy a debt fund. It's okay to buy a liquid fund, and it's okay to look for that return. But definitely no individual has the capacity, I mean, not no, but 99.9% of the individuals don't have the capacity to actually analyze the underlying risk in the portfolio of that fund that they buy. I remember in 2008, I had friends of mine whose kids were kind of ready to go to the US a year later for their education. So they'd sold some assets, and you can't put that asset in an equity market when you want it in 6 or 9 months to pay for your kids' education. So you put it into a debt fund. And of course, 2008, September, great financial crisis, etc., global financial crisis, and their debt funds lost 25 to 30% in the NAV. So by the time they had to pay for their kids' education, they had a capital erosion. That should never happen. And these are not dumb people. They're smart engineers, software guys, build companies, sold companies. But did they understand the debt? Were they explained the risk of the debt fund that they had? Probably not. Which is why they bought the debt fund in the first place. So if even a sophisticated, educated person has a difficult time understanding debt, I mean, to actually go out there and take extra, risk in your portfolio where individuals are investing, that's crazy. You want to speculate with the CFOs and treasuries, different. But I think it's insane that these funds are, again, it happened in 2005, 6, 7, debt funds were missold then, and it's happened again. So it'll keep on happening. And the only way to stop it, my view, is that SEBI says if anyone lines up for a rescue from the RBI or the government, I'm taking away your license. That's it. They're never going to learn. They'll keep on doing bad things, and they'll keep on coming to the taxpayer for a rescue. That's the characteristic of this industry. Please recognize that. Don't let them fool you with all their sayings on national TV. That's who they are.
And I'm going to come to that bit because it's important, the response, and then the support that came for that response. But I think the big question and fear right now, Ajit, is also contagion risk. I was looking at a recent brokerage report which said that they had analyzed the credit profile of the entire fixed income portfolio, and they came to the conclusion is that most of the debt exposure at this point is in high rate debt. Only about 17% or 2.2 crores is in AA, lower rated securities, as you explained.
Yes.
Would you agree with that observation, or would you say there is a real contagion risk that exists at this point in some of these debt mutual funds?
Right. So I think there's a significant chance of contagion risk. If you look at those numbers, and I remember them vaguely, I think sovereign was about 18, 19%, and then AAA was about 60% or thereabouts, some big number like that. But you know, to look at ratings, right? A rating agency is giving ratings either on a issuance of a security, of a particular security, and it's based upon information that's available to them as of the last reported quarter or whatever. It's a backward looking analysis. It's not a forward looking analysis by and large. And the only time they look forward is in times like this, in some sense. So they're looking at historical data, looking at coverage, they're making some forecast, about what cash flows will look like, and then they give a rating. This is a major disruption. So we've had an economy that's been weakened for the last 4 years. The first nail on the coffin of the Indian economy was demonetization. No one should forget that. Demonetization was an absolute disaster. And as we were recovering from that, or trying to recover from that, you had GST, which in our opinion was a completely stupid idea, set up by the Congress government and sadly taken forward by this government. So stupid idea in our view. GST in our view has actually, made things a lot worse, and we've seen the way it was implemented. So conceptually bad and badly implemented. That slowed down demand further and supply further in India. And then on top of that, on top of all of this, you've had, the NPA crisis, you've had the banking system in trouble, you've had the risk taking that's showing up, and it showed up with the IL&FS default in September 2018, and then Dewan housing, and just going on and on and on. And while the government has been trying to get it all cleared out with a very good introduction of the bankruptcy code and the movement of that, there's a process problem. You go to court, if you don't like the result, you fight, and that stretches out the time. So you've had the banks in a crisis not lending. You've had economic distress across the country. Corporate India, they're not investing in capex, their profit margins have been low, etc., etc. So you've got all of that, and the straw that broke the camel's back was COVID. This has kind of accelerated everything and said, okay, guys, wake up to the reality. And it's also got collateral, damage for companies that were sound that may not exist 12 months from now. So if you have 60% of the debt rated as AAA, it's highly likely that a lot of that AAA debt is going to start being, going to go down a couple of notches when the credit agencies get back to reviews. And I don't know how many companies in India have cash in the bank to survive on a zero revenue basis. That's what's being asked of people today. Continue to pay salaries, continue to keep the labor force. And by the way, no one's buying your product. No one is checking into any hotel. No one's checking into any airport. No one's going into any airplane, into any restaurant. No one's buying anything. But continue paying wages, and they are doing that. How long can they do that for? A brief study that we did using Equity Masters database was that of the 180 companies that are out there, that not even 5% could actually cover just the salaries and wages, forget their rent, forget their other obligations, for more than 9 months, not even 5%. So if this, in terms of a total zero revenue, so if the lockdown continues and economic revival takes some more time, which it likely will, to show, to kind of you have the economy grow and recover, you will have AAAs moving to AA. So
Yep.
I think that 17% number could easily double, very easily, in my opinion.
Let's move to response for a bit, Ajit, because within hours of Franklin making the announcement that it did, you had all major mutual fund managers on, business channels or any other platform talking about how this was a one-off, but then also a black swan event, and it was necessary for the RBI to dive right into the situation and provide, a liquidity lifeline. First of all, do you think that's fair? And secondly, do you think that even with the setting up of this window, it addresses the problem that exists at the bad debt level? Because, one point of view is that banks are still not going to go out and buy junk.
Yeah. So, a few things. Whenever I hear Black Swan on TV, I kind of smile, as I've said. you know, 26 years of the mutual fund industry's existence in India, they've had 17 black swan events. When you see
Yeah.
a black swan, so often it's a crow squawking at your window asking for a bailout. That's what it is. It's not a black swan. Please don't get fooled. So, of course, the reason everyone's on TV today is because everyone in their book has some questionable paper. So if you compare and contrast, again, it's a question of what you set the liquid fund up for or what you set the debt fund up for. Goes back to the buyer's need, the treasurer's need for higher return, the hunt for yield. So rather than telling the treasurer, I can't give you that higher return, you see that AUM lying in the corporate books of Infosys and Tatas and Birlas, and you want that AUM. You want that assets under management for your fees and for your salary and for your bonus and your ESOP plan. You want it. So you design the product. You give the buyer what the buyer wants. That's the creed of the investment banking community. I remember Uday Kotak, he wrote an article for one of the magazines and he said, hey, my job is to give you the level of spice that you want. So yeah, all the corporate treasurers wanted spice and everyone gave them the spice they wanted. So even the liquid funds have some kind of extra, juice in them, extra spice in them, so that their returns can be a little better on a quarterly, monthly, weekly basis, so they can get more AUM market share from the corporates who have the extra money. And of course, then you go and sell that to the HNIs, you go and sell that to the retail investor. Same thing with the debt funds. So everyone has some toxic stuff or potentially toxic stuff, and they're scared about contagion. So hence, what the RBI is doing is very sensible. Here's a 50,000 crore line of credit, give it to the banks and tell the banks, hey, you go and buy the funds, you go and buy paper from the mutual funds. And as you correctly pointed out, the banks are saying, not me, I have enough of a problem. I have a lot of rubbish on my books anyway from years of bad lending. The last thing I want is take on more risk. So
Yeah.
the money is there. And I think when I read it a day ago or so, I think of the 50,000 crores, only 2,800 crores had actually gone out. So, how that will be deployed is difficult. But repeat, it's not a black swan. It is a black crow. It's happening very often. This risk was driven by, as you correctly pointed out, the need from the corporate treasurer. It was like a kind of a very nice partnership. I want the high yield. You give me the product that's risky, and I'll give you the money. It worked for everyone while it was good. And now that it's not working, they want to get bailed out by everyone else. So all the taxpayers from the government should be spending money on trying to help migrant labor and poor people who are stranded and have no money and need cash. The
And
RBI has already been doing things to get liquidity and money moving to different parts of the economy. And now they got to deal with this headache because unethical people did stuff that was unethical and have created a problem that the whole country now has to pay for their bailout. And the contagion effect is very dangerous because, as was pointed out correctly by the broker that you said, that if there are 60% of all issuance is AAA, even the good companies may find it difficult to raise money because of fear. And so the AAA company has a danger of moving to AA or single A because money is not available to them. All because greed has ruled the mutual fund industry.
I want to end our conversation with consequences, Ajit, on two sides. I mean, you talked about the revoking of licenses, but I was quite amazed to see flippant comments such as "profits are private, but losses must be socialized." Do you expect to see any consequences for the mutual fund industry on the one hand, and on the other hand, SIPs have been phenomenal in terms of supporting this market. We've been working
Yes.
clip at 8,000 crores per month, and they've really been the driving force, not so much the foreign investors. Do you think an event such as this will change that attitude or that response or approach that SIP investors have had so far, that domestic money has had so far towards the market and towards mutual funds?
Right. So I think that's a great point. I think that the one phenomenal advantage or achievement of the Modi regime, so since May 2014, go back in history, in September 2013, we had the fragile five kind of crisis. Ben Bernanke was raising interest rates in the US or fear of that, and that caused a kind of contagion which hit India. The rupee went from 55 to 66. We had a change of RBI governor that was happening. Raghuram Rajan came in, raised interest rates, got the line of credit, stabilized the rupee, and the markets began to recover. Coincidentally, around the same week that then Chief Minister Narendra Modi was nominated to be the Prime Minister candidate of the BJP in September 2013. And the markets went from about 18,000 level on the BSE 30 index to about 24,000 the day he was actually elected as Prime Minister in May 2014. So we had like about a 30% run in the index. And from May 2014 till now, as you mentioned, we've got 6, 7, 8,000 crores of rupees coming in on a constant, steady basis, and the mutual fund industry has done a phenomenal job. AMFI has done a great job of positioning mutual funds as a wonderful way to put your savings in. And that has indeed offset the scare and the fear that foreigners have at different points in time about being invested in emerging markets, having India exposure, etc., etc. And that has been a cushion. My hope is that people recognize that debt funds are debt funds, and you've got equity funds, which are different. They may have their own issues in terms of risk return profile, but they've recognized that equity has given them the upside. The markets have come down, but it's not gone to zero. It's not gone to, you don't see the NAV of an equity fund going to zero. You can see stocks that some of them have going to zero. In a debt fund, and there's a lot of liquidity in the equity markets. That's not the case in the debt markets, and certainly not the private corporate debt market. So the issue is that they are very different, and I hope that investors continue recognizing that while equity is risky, if they pick the right fund and the right strategy with fund manager within it, or a basket of it, they will still make a fair amount of money. But if they were to stop, then yes, equity markets will lose the cushion. I mean, LIC, how long can they keep on buying? How many shares and how many bonds can LIC, for example, buy year after year or month after month? You have to have retail participation. And we just hope that that does continue. Yes.
Ajit, such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you. I really appreciate the honesty and the mirror that you've held up to the mutual fund industry. Thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. And I hope everyone continues to stay safe and stay healthy and stay invested in the right products all the time.
So we hope.
Thank you so much.